Ripping through reality like crystalline daggers of fate dancing on grave sand of eternity, we are the Banshee Howl of Justice, 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, broadcasting our Vox signal live from Joe's Sum Shack.
It's a little cold, Gobbo. More blood on the ice this week as the ice tunnel cave-in buried the western frost hollow, leading to water shortages across the Underhive. Gotta say, it's just about fucking perfect, surrounded by ice and no water to drink.
If that doesn't just point out the Administratum's efficiency, I don't know what does. At least we got fungi beer.
Hell, this fungi beer is even goddamn cold. Driving this crazy train through the depths of the fungi forest, I am your deranged Captain Goblin King, joined by our co-pilot and navigator supreme, the fastest map reader ever, even if his accuracy is shit, Marky.
You can tell the fungi beer is cold when the mushroom cap is red and veiny.
Packing enough last cannon goodness to slag anything, and the perception to shoot first. Who even needs to ask questions? It's Kev.
Pew, 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 pew. It's good to be here, guys.
Welcome to Lorus Obscurus episode 12, Germany's Black Forest, as we peel back the layers of just the concept of haunted forest as a Lorus Obscurus on its own. We found a much deeper well of spooky tales and lost lore to explore. And in no single place does there seem to be more myth and legend packed into than the Black Forest of Germany. While it often gets the title of most haunted forest, the more you look into the Schwarzwald, is that how I would say that, Kevin?
Chugging this popcorn.
It's like
Schwarzwald.
So, Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzwald.
Yes,
Schwarzwald.
That's black.
Right.
So that's black, and Wald is forest.
Right. So the more you look into the Schwarzwald, the more clear it becomes that its massive connection actually reaches into the world of mythology, being a place that just has as many cryptid sightings as it does connections to the paranormal, UFOs, fairies, and even ghosts. But before we dive into the meat of the episode, who has some spooky forest tales to share? Kev, you actually have been in the area, correct?
Yeah. I've been there twice, actually. Zwei. In Zwei.
Yeah, right. Don't do
this
it.
Would have gotten me shot. This would have gotten me shot. I'm a dirty American.
It's not how they count over there. I know that from Inglorious Bastards.
Exactly. I like how we all caught it too. I was like, "Oh shit, I'm an idiot." So yes, I've been there twice. Both times, I was traveling through Germany, and I didn't really. It wasn't to like go visit the Black Forest for spooky reasons. It was just because it is the Black Forest. It's kind of like a folk area. And I've actually been to, if you're on Patreon, this building that is on screen currently.
Is that where Cuckoo,
That's the Cuckoo Clock building.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Cuckoo Clock place. So I went in there and I bought a cuckoo clock I was walking around. This is actually my first time in there. And when I bought the cuckoo clock, no, actually, this wasn't my first time in there. This is my second time through the area. First time we didn't actually stop at that building. I forgot. The second time we stopped in that building, because we came from the east instead of from the north. Or no, came from the west. I'm mixed that up. Came from the west going to the east, and one of these. They're fantastic cuckoo clocks. These crazy German cuckoo clocks are so cool. They're handmade.
Well, and that's
they've been
where
making
they're
them
from, right?
Yeah, I guess they're from that region. Like that whole like style of everything is from there, and they're all handmade, like carved out of wood, super intricate, and they all operate off the little weighted system. So you got to wind them up. They're so cool. So I bought one, and I had it shipped home. I couldn't even like bring it with me because it wouldn't fit in my suitcase. And it turned out when I got home, I bought the exact same clock my dad had.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's
Right?
trippy.
right? Like literally the exact same thing. The dude's been making them, or the family or whatever has been making them by hand that long. And
That's
it's
nuts,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. It blew my mind because I got home and then I told my dad, oh yeah, I got a clock. He's like, oh, I have my German cuckoo. I was like, oh, I didn't even know we still had that because he had it when I was so young
Like
that
a
it
little
didn't
kid.
even. Yeah, like I was like probably 5 or 6, when the last time I seen it, and then it like stopped working and he put it away. I guess I thought it just disappeared. So I got the clock home eventually. It showed up in the mail, and I pulled the thing out of the box, and my dad's like, "That's exactly like mine." And I was like, "Wait, we still had it." So he went and dug it out of the garage wherever it was. We put the two next to each other, and they are like, it's weird. It's one of those like just
Uncanny
it's
resemblance.
uncanny resemblance. And it's like more than uncanny. It's like you can tell the dude did it, like made mine while looking at my dad's kind of thing. Like he had the
That's
one in the
crazy, man.
shop and he's like, okay, let's make another one of these.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's super cool. Oh yeah, so in that picture you've got up there, you can see the 3 pine cones at the bottom.
Oh,
Those
like
are
little
all
weight
weighted.
thingies.
Yeah, so each one of those is going to be hour, minutes, and seconds. And then there's a little swingy bit, and that you adjust to keep in time. And once you get you can adjust the weight on that as well. And once you get that set to be the proper second, it'll tick 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 tick, and it'll slowly the pine cones down.
And then like every hour, like stuff comes out and does things.
Yeah. So in this picture specifically, you see the little dancy guys on top, the little beer fest looking guys. So when it comes up to, you can kind of tell by looking at it what'll happen. So those guys will like carousel around.
Yeah, and then the other people like dance around the building. And
Yeah, and
like,
the other ones probably like jump up and down or something. And then you can see the tiny little door at the top, the little tiny barn door.
right.
That'll pop out, and that's the cuckoo.
So my grandmother had a cuckoo clock when I was a little kid, and every time that the cuckoo came out, he would like come out and do his cuckoos, and,
Cuckoo.
and then like when he went back in, he like angrily slammed that door. He's like, "Fuck you guys!" And there was something about it where like it just looked like that little bird was pissed the fuck off. He was like, "Fuck you guys! I'm going
I'm
home.
going back
I'm
to
done."
sleep. I did my job. I'm going back home.
He was so pissed. There was something about his look, something about how violently the door slammed.
Yeah, don't get paid enough for this shit.
Right? It's like every hour on the hour. God damn it.
Come out and these idiots are fucking looking at me.
Right. But Germany has a huge thing with like cuckoo clocks in general. In Munich, they have one that's an entire building, basically. It's actually really cool to watch. I've seen it several times.
It's got little Mr. Hankies hanging from it.
It's called the Glockenspiel,
That's pretty cool name, not gonna lie.
right? What it translates to is it's the clock play.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Classy.
Take a
Oh,
look.
that's fucking
Take a
crazy,
look at
dude.
that thing. It's fucking huge. And it's
Like
it's
knights
math.
and shit come out of it.
Oh,
Holy
dude,
crap,
there's a
bro.
there's a joust at one point. Like the two guys come and they fucking joust each other. Like, yeah.
Germany
And-
was like, hey, bro, let's make Disneyland way before Disneyland.
So like everybody knows Germany for their like military engineering and like some of their food and obviously their beer. Nobody remembers that before they made crazy, airplanes and tanks and stuff, they just made random stuff really well.
Well, and
that
lots
quality level still
Yeah.
there. That's
Yeah,
an ancient clock.
lots of like crazy precision engineering stuff comes out of Germany, and like I do engineering, so
Yeah.
maybe I look at it or think about it more, but like crazy precise tools, crazy precise
hmm
like little mechanical
Optics.
gadgets that you need. Some of the early animatronics all came out of Germany, or well, it wasn't Germany then, but all came out of that area, that Bavarian,
Right.
Prussian area.
Yeah, that whole kind of cultural area.
I think It's a Small World is a German ride. Like, I know it's at Disneyland, but I think it's a German ride. Like, the guy that made it was German, and
That-
it is
it
because
probably- I mean,
like
it
style
essentially
of
is
doll is a German doll.
I mean, it's those Glockenspiel dolls.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
essentially a giant Glockenspiel.
So what else did you? I mean, so you drove through it, you drove by it. How did that work?
We drove through it because I was on a tour bus every time I've been through Germany,
Okay, cool.
and
Do they
so it was.
talk about like where you're going, or is it
They
just like
talked about it just kind of in like a general, like it's a very like kind of rural area of Germany. It's because not a lot has happened there in recent history. Like it wasn't super important to World War II. There wasn't a lot of like we did, we drove through it and we stopped in the major towns because we stopped in Cologne as we drove through there. Stopped in Munich, but it was more relevant to those specific areas. We didn't really stop in like the small towns to get the small town history, but we did drive through it. And it was, I mean, as you can see in these pictures, it's a beautiful countryside,
yeah, the
trees everywhere. It's weird. Like, so I've been to Ireland, I've been to Scotland, I've been to Spain, I've been to in places with so many trees. This has got to be the place with the most trees.
there's a really weird reason why too. So, and we won't get into this as we get into the episode because it's not really into the spoopy stuff. But the Black Forest was so heavily deforested that by like the 19th century, the German people, the people that lived in the area, because again, this is kind of predates the concept of Germany, but the people that lived in the area realized that there was a problem and started like replanting trees and not cutting them. Like they did
Oh, they
conservation,
practiced
but like
conservation.
in the early 1800s. So like
Mm.
it's back really, which is a really weird thing. But yeah, it's an area that's just dotted with old castles, little tiny towns. Like there's all sorts of crazy shit in the Black
Oh
Forest.
yeah.
It's a lot like in a lot of ways, a little bit like the Pine Barrens. It's a relatively big piece of territory with just a bunch of history packed into it.
And yeah, it's old. That's what it's really what it is. It's just an old region.
Yeah.
As you can see on the map here, it borders Switzerland and France, which means that it's going to have a lot of history there as well.
Well, I have an interesting story, and it takes place in a portion of the forest, not the Colorado forest, but it takes place in a portion of the forest coming up to Colorado. And I didn't think about or in Colorado, and I didn't even think about it until we were in our production meeting, so I wasn't going to bring it up today. But we had talked a little bit about the laws for like smoking cigarettes and serving food change. And there's a place called Dinosaur, Colorado, which is on the edge of the desert. And this is on the other side of the Rockies from the story that I'm going to tell. But we stopped. It was the morning after all this shit happened. And we stopped specifically to just like eat breakfast. And I think we stopped to like have beers and eat brunch, essentially. We needed to cool the fuck down. And we're there and we're in a restaurant. It was like the Dinosaur Cafe or something because it's Dinosaur, Colorado, so everything's named Dinosaur. And it's a double wide with another double wide or with a single wide attached to the side of it. So you walk into a double wide and that's where like the kitchen and the like counter is, the diner counter is. And then there was a single wide T-boned into it on the end. And that's where like the seating was. So we walk in. And there's only two people, and it's 2006, 2007. We're driving back from Louisiana, essentially. We did a cross country trip. We drove the entire country after some U.S. events that had happened. We were trying to get away and reset. But we went into this diner, and the gal that sat us is smoking. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, it's weird because we're from California, but okay, whatever. So she sits us down, and she sits us down in a way where we can see, kind of like a Waffle House, where we can basically see into the kitchen. We order our food. So she sits us down the normal way, and then she comes up to our table from like in the kitchen, like the wraparound counter, and she takes our order from the edge of the bench or the edge of the booth. But she's standing in the kitchen, and we're sitting in the dining room. Okay, so like kind of build a picture. And then we order food, and she writes it down, and she wanders off, and we're just sort of watching her. You know, we're trying to process the story, the event that happened. We're watching this woman, and she cooks all of our food with a fucking cigarette hanging out of her mouth the entire time. And like she chain smokes off it, so she lights her new one off the stub of the old one, and she's like, the ash is getting to be like an inch and a half long before she knocks it off. So I'm like, man, she gonna season my eggs extra good today.
Kind of reminds me of
was it
the chick
delicious?
from Kung Fu
It
Hustle.
was. Yes, yeah, very much.
Yeah.
But old white lady version of the chick from Kung Fu Hustle. It was delicious food. Was it delicious? It wasn't delicious. I'll take that back. It was an experience I won't forget. I actually don't remember if the food was good, but the experience definitely stuck out in my mouth, in my mind. We drove up through the Colorado Rockies on the longest day of summer, and we went through the pass we went through one of the higher mountain passes that's actually near-ish to where the Donner Pass is. So the Donner Pass is lower and goes kind of a little bit more through a valley through the mountains. The pass we went over is the like essentially the Crest Pass. But as you're driving up to the Crest Pass, it wasn't the 80. I can't remember the freeway that cuts over, but we were taking a major freeway. You basically see all of the signs for Donner's Pass. Being, in our early 20s and
Donner Pass? You mean Donner, Party of None?
Yes, exactly. I've always wanted to go to a restaurant and give my name as Donner Party of 8, and then when they finally call us, they're like, Donner Party of 8, be like, there's 4 now, we got peckish. And just see if they understand. The problem is most of the maitre d' staff are very young people, so I have a feeling they just look at me like I was an insane person.
Right.
Anyway, being in our younger age and everything, we stopped off at this spring town that's up there. I can't remember the name of this. It's like something Springs. There's a bunch of little tiny towns that dot the Colorado Rockies that are all something Springs because there are springs there. So we stopped off at this spring town. We did everything. We decided that we weren't going to stay in a campground. We didn't want to stay in like a hotel. We were going to rough it. So we went out into the middle of the boons and we camped. And I'm pretty sure I told the story where we camped, and in the middle of the night, something woke me up by scratching on the side of the tent. This happened there. We went to sleep, and the river and the pond were liquid water. We woke up, and they were frozen solid. But anyway, our buddy, Matt, is really, really big into geopositional data and tracking and all of that. So he's super into a bunch of this stuff, and he had done basically like, what are all the points around us that are interesting that we can get to relatively quickly? We drove a little bit of the way down the mountain, and we went onto this little tiny fucking trail that my Hyundai Elantra barely navigated. My Subaru would have fucking crushed it, but my Elantra was like, I think I can. You're off-roading in a 2-wheel car, a 2004 2-wheel car.
I did that with my Kia Soul once. I didn't realize that I had clicked the wrong road on the maps, and I was trying to go snowboarding up at Big Bear, and it took me up the truck trail, and I went over a few of those big old like wash berms, the ones that they sculpt to shape the water flow as if it rains.
Yep.
And I scraped on all 3 of them, and I was like, I feel like we're going up the wrong road. I've never been here before, and I've been up snowboarding a bunch of times. Like, I feel like the GPS is taking us the wrong way today.
Maybe I should turn around. I don't know.
And so I pulled it up and I checked it, but it was 2-wheel drive on those roads, not good.
Yeah. So we essentially got as far as we could, and then we got out and we walked it. And we walked it into this old like gold mining prospecting camp that was documented, and at one point, we could tell walking in, at one point had like a tourist center and like a walking map, but there was nothing there anymore. Like, one of those things. Even in 2006, there were places that just had fallen into massive disrepair and nobody went there anymore. And this was definitely one of those places. It was probably really hot in the 80s, but by, the late 90s, the early 2000s, no one went there. We went up to the little like information hiking booth thing, and we took a couple of pictures with our cameras because camera phones weren't really a thing, with our digital cameras of the map and all of that. So we had reference, and then we started walking the different points that were on it and trying to find all these different little places. There's a miner's house that was almost completely intact out there. And as we were walking out to it, we kept coming across these other little ones. And it's pretty stereotypical for a mining prospecting village, if you've ever seen a ghost town, where there are these little houses sort of everywhere, but it's up in the mountains. So there's like no streets. There's just these paths, these like gravel paths everywhere. Everybody walk gravel paths. And you're not in the forest, but you're in the forest. Like you're in a clearing-ish area, but there's still big trees and you can still see where the forest is. We couldn't see the car because the car was parked up in the trees.
It's because there's like trees in between all the buildings and stuff.
Right,
It's just less dense than the actual like real forest.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like kind of like a natural, like probably a slightly naturally cleared area, and then they cleared it a little bit more. But we had gotten to this house that was essentially just a foundation. So it's a foundation. There were a couple of pieces of wood, and there was like there was all the cobblestones or the brickwork for the chimney. All the stonework for the chimney was still there, but there was nothing else. Like absolutely nothing else. And it was like a fucking tornado had come down and just grabbed everything except the floor and the chimney and left. There's no debris anywhere or anything. And of course, I kind of understand now that that's probably because people came and like reclaimed that stuff for other towns, or, you know, stuff burned down. And as they like, you know, that person moved out first, and as like stuff broke, they started stealing parts from that house to fix their houses and all that shit. Cause that's how that general like Old West lifestyle worked. But at the time, you know, I had really no connection. So we're poking around this shit, trying to figure out what happened, and we can see this other house, like, way up in the distance. And Dave, another buddy of mine, the other guy that I'm with, goes, hey, we should go ask that person up there some of the history of this area. And we're like, yeah, sure. And, you know, we both look up, and we're like, where are they? And he's like, oh, they're up by the main house. And okay, that makes sense. There must be people out here, right? Like, that makes sense. There's got to be a groundskeeper or whatever. So we start walking up to this main house, kind of expecting to find the like stereotypical tourist gift shop thing. And the closer we get, the more Matt starts to comment, hey man, are you sure it's not tweakers? Hey man, are you sure it's not hunters? Hey man, are you sure it's not like, because we start to see things that make you think stuff like an abandoned bike and like a couple of beer bottles, and like it starts to be less.
The clues are there.
Yeah, it starts to be less close to the hiking trailhead, and it starts to be a little bit more into the like, oh, there's squatters out here kind of thing. We've come too far in the immortal words of Harold and Kumar. We've come too far. So we figured, you know, whoever Dave saw us. So fuck it, we're all in for a penny, in for a pound. So we get up to this little like fully built house, and the door's open, and we walk in. There's nobody there. So we look around a little bit, and there's fucking nobody there. So we spent like another maybe 15 minutes looking around before the overwhelming sense of there was never anybody here. We're not fucking alone. Maybe we shouldn't poke around anymore. Gets a little too heavy, and we start to leave. So we're leaving, and we're about all the way back to the car, and Dave decides that he wants to stop and take a couple of photos. So, you know, we're closer to the car.
God damn it, Dave.
It's at a certain time in my life where you guys have heard other Lorus Obscurus stories. I was armed at the time, so like there wasn't a huge amount of like worry, like real worry about stuff. We stop and we sit down in the grass, and I think Matt and I go back to the car, and we get like the cooler and some of the food stuff that we have, because we're going to sit in the grass overlooking this area while Dave does a bunch of photos. And just, you know, whatever he gets. He was super big into photography at the time, so we were kind of like used to it. So we sat there for probably another like hour or two. Sun starts to set. We get back into the car. We drive back to the campsite that we had been at. We rent a cabin because all of the weird tent shit. And then, you know, we go to sleep. Well, the next morning, Dave wakes up and goes, hey, there were definitely people there. They're in a bunch of the photos. And this is digital camera era. Just so everyone's super clear. Like, yeah, it's not a film camera. So there's no weird double. Like, Dave's able to bring up the photos immediately. We're able to look through them immediately. And both Matt and I are like, dude, there was nobody there. But sure enough, in like 4 of the pictures he has, there are people standing either in the little house or like next to it. And then we drove down the hill, and we found the diner in Dinosaur, Colorado, and we ate. And then we went to another fucking ghost town, because of course we did. This one in more about the desert area, and we hunted around, and we caught some really cool photos of, I don't know if they're called gazelle, but there's maybe they are gazelle. There's a type of
the antelope looking things.
Yeah, maybe they're antelopes. We caught a bunch of them out there, like running across and like, holy shit, like jumping like 7-foot fences and crazy, crazy good. Some of the best photography I ever did in my life was at that location, totally unplanned. And I kind of wish I still knew where the photos were because some of them are really good. So a couple of nights later, we're back in California. A couple of weeks later, we're back in California. We're all talking about it. And Dave brings up the photos. And sure as shit, there's like 4 people in those photos. And I would swear to you, especially since the focal length of a camera is often much shorter than the focal length of our eyes. So we're closer than the camera perceives us to be, essentially. I swear to you, there was no one there.
That's weird.
So
that's creepy.
Anyway, nothing else happened. It's not like anybody like
no,
whispered
but it's
into
just
our
creepy
ears
on
or touched
its
our
own.
butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely forgot about that until we talked about how you can't smoke in California anymore in our production meeting. I was like, oh yeah, the Dinosaur Colorado lady.
Well, why you got to bring up the butt touching, man?
Because if we ever do a ghost crawl, which we're gonna do, we're gonna have our little GoPro cameras on and our night vision, our NVGs, and we're gonna go out to these haunted locations. And it's gonna be like 3:00 in the morning. Nothing's going to have happened. It's gonna be like 3:00 in the morning. And one of us is just going to freak out because something touches our butt. I'm telling you. I'm not saying it's going to be you. You'll probably be asleep. I'll probably put Beast up to it.
And he'll touch your butt.
I'm sure he will.
The Black Forest is located in the southwest of Germany and encompasses roughly 2,320 square miles. It's close to the border with both France and Switzerland, and it is a forested mountain region that is bordered also on its south and west side by the Rhine River. So essentially the Rhine River comes down, and then the mountains on each side of it are just covered in this ancient forest. In ancient times, the forest was called the Abanaba Mons, after the Celt deity Abanaba, and it was later renamed as the Silva Marciana, or the Marcian Forest, by the Romans. This comes from the Germanic word for marca, which means border, and the forest was probably originally a border between the Marcanami people, which means border people, who had settled east of the Roman Empire's control. With the exception of the Roman road and a few of the Prudeners settlements, the Romans didn't really settle into the forest. This is probably where a lot of the forest battles that we're kind of used to and seeing in movies or shows like Rome and the opening conflict in Gladiator, probably supposed to be this area, this edge of the Roman Empire. Probably, Rome coming up to the edge of Switzerland.
Yeah, they kind of would follow the river and the roads. Yeah.
So the Almani, I believe is how you say it. The Almani, right? Is that correct, Kevin?
I believe so.
Okay. I feel Almani feels right. I heard somebody pronounce it like really weird, though. I was like, what? So the Almani first settled the forest, colonizing its valleys and expanding out across the Roman borders much later on. This expansion included Rontbach, which is a settlement that is first mentioned in 819, and it's still there. It's one of those little towns that Kev mentioned. A lot of peasant uprisings, including the Bushusha movement, which preceded the Germanic Peasants' War in the 16th century, originated from the forest, and later the Saltpeter uprisings can also be traced to this region. Remnants of military fortifications from the 17th and 18th century can be found in lots of the little valleys and mountain passes, and this includes a lot of the Baroque field works of Margrave Louis William of Baden-Baden. So the Baroque period is
that would be
Baden-Baden. Baden-Baden, okay. So the Baroque period is a lot of the Gothic style artwork and architecture that we see in the Warhammer 40k universe. That's often referred to as Baroque, or that is Baroque period architecture. So all of those kind of like...
I'm Baroque.
Sometimes I feel pretty Baroque. But Baroque is also the way that they describe the armor. So when you come across like descriptions of the Grey Knights and the Custodes, they often say have Baroque armor. It's the guys that you see who have the power armor that looks a little bit more like a castle fortification and a little bit less like armor. That's kind of what they're referring to. It's also just a very, very detailed old style. So Mastercraft armor with all the little tiny leafy details all over it that's like gilded in places would be considered
Artificer.
Baroque and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
artificer
crazy
armor
stuff.
is because really what it was is that was back when you had to handcraft everything. So if you're gonna handcraft it, you might as well make it look nice.
Yeah, and people would make
the monarchs would
master.
get in their dick waving contests because war is really expensive and really bad for your economy. But you know what's not bad for your economy, but also really expensive and makes you look cool? A fucking statue.
Or lots of them.
or a castle on every hill.
Right?
Like they're not even like necessarily good strategic fortification castles. Like yeah, having the high ground is always an advantage, but like they're not. You just hit it with a cannonball and the whole castle comes crumbling down. It's literally just to say that I have a castle on top of a hill.
Yeah, and like a lot of it, you know, this Margrave, Lewis William of Baden, did I say it right that time? Baden. Sorry,
they don't because they don't have a so much. Like it's more like
okay.
It's not like
it's the soft sound instead.
Yeah, like cat in German is Ketze. It's almost like an AE. Like they don't have A by itself. It's either AE or AO kind of like pronunciations.
Interesting.
Käse,
but yeah, so
it's like for cheese. It's they don't have the same like how we use A's in a bunch of different pronunciation just for just solo A, you know.
Got it.
So for them it's Baden.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so that guy did a bunch of field works, and field works are kind of what Kevin's talking about. We're like, we're going to build a big fucking dirt wall here. We're going to cover the outside in a bunch of rock and, rock bricks, cobblestones. And then because I'm a Margrave, we're going to make it look fancy. And then, it takes a cannonball and half of the facade goes away because it's dirt. There's no structure behind it. It's just not even trampled down dirt. Sometimes it's just loose piled dirt. The forest is made up of conifers and spruce trees, which are often at the very dark green level in color, appearing almost black, something that makes the forest look even darker after the sun sets. The climate of the mountains is also colder and wetter than the surrounding countryside, which leads to impressive fog banks, which drift and then settle in among the trees. The thickness of the canopy also cuts how much light gets through the forest and kind of casts everything in an eerie twilight, even during the height of the day, with dense vegetation. Enough. Yeah. And the vegetation on the ground level kind of muffles sound. So you get this
like
very twilight
quiet
experience. Yeah.
It's very much like if you've seen the Harry Potter movies, the Forbidden Forest, it kind of gives off those vibes.
Yeah.
Where it's just 100%. Quiet and like kind of foggy.
A lot of the time too. It's crazy how many pictures and like video segments and everything of the Black Forest, it's foggy.
Because when you get trees like that and the moisture that comes with the rain in those regions, it's gonna just hang.
And the fog is gonna, especially coming off the Rhine, if the Rhine is kind of hot during the day, say it's like a hot day, so it could be like 75 on the Rhine. And I'm trying to do the Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion in my head as I'm talking, so forgive me if I'm a little slow. So it could be like 75 on the Rhine. Everybody's having kind of a nice day, swimming, all that. But you're up hiking in the Black Forest, sometimes just a couple of 100 meters away, and the temperature difference could be 20 degrees. It could be in the 50s. So what that does is when that hot air rises and hits the edge of the forest, it turns into fog. It condenses and turns into like essentially they're called temperate rainforests. It's the same thing that happens with the sequoias in California, and it happens in some of the other, some of the forests in the Colorado Rockies and the Appalachians, where this kind
Ireland basically is one.
Yeah. Hot, warm air comes up, it hits this cooler air, and it turns into like rain. Just not jungle rain, it's forest rain.
Yeah.
Oh, Because of all this stuff that we just kind of talked about, most people assume that's where the forest got its modern name. But this isn't actually the case. The Black Forest comes from the medieval period with the name of Schwarzwald, first being encountered in about the 9th century. According to the German medieval historian Uwe Schmidt, the forest is depicted in paintings as being a place of hostility, being black, meaning it is uncivilized and inhospitable. So the name comes more from the superstition and the mythology of the region than the fact that not a lot of light penetrates. Obviously, it's all one pot, but the name is more from the era when the forest was named. It's a little bit more like don't go into the dark forest, and a little bit less like, it's mighty dark in this forest. Like there's a difference between the lights are off and the house is haunted, which I thought was interesting. I thought that it was interesting that there's a medieval historian of forestry, actually, of the Germanic regions that had a breakdown of it, which was pretty neat. No story about Germany can be complete without talking about Indiana Jones's favorite bad guys, the most punchable faces in the entire universe, the Nazis.
Yeah, Nazis.
The Nazis. 100 Nazi scalps. Known for their obsession with trying to tie everything to the occult and ancient legends, the Nazis connected themselves to the mythic legends of the forest. According to their ideology, German people were innately connected to the woodlands through the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. This is a creation myth, and it is said that the Germanic tribes, led by Hermann, slaughtered the Roman legions, causing Rome to abandon plans to take the land east of the Rhine. Historically, there wasn't a battle, and it's much more likely that Caesar did conquer most of this area, but it wasn't really deemed worthwhile to hunt out the remnants of resistance that had fled Rome's borders into the forest. Essentially, Caesar, Julius Caesar, the big Caesar we talked about, did a bunch of campaigning in this area, took over a bunch of land, and then was like, cool, I took it over, I'm out.
And I'm moving on. He Alexander degraded it.
Yeah, in that era, I've beaten your people, I'm out. And
I'll come back to collect my taxes later. And if you fight me when I get here, it's a rebellion. If not, then I still own you.
Yeah. And essentially
Go
ahead.
I did hear an interesting pronunciation. I think it's supposed to be Kaiser
instead of Caesar.
I think we're all pronouncing it wrong,
which would be interesting because obviously the title in Prussia
I
was
heard
Kaiser.
So exactly, and I'm not sure because there's a show about that takes place in this area. It's on Netflix. Called Barbaren, but it's a German show where the barbarians speak German and the Romans all speak Latin. And both the Germans and the Latins call their commanders Kaiser, but in the subtitles spelled Caesar.
Interesting.
And they also refer to Caesar in Rome as Kaiser in Rome.
So my level of obsession, of academic obsession with this time period, the Bronze Age time period, is the Assyrian through Egyptian area. I'm not really a huge
Southern Mediterranean
aficionado.
Rather than
So if you listen to the podcast and you have an expertise in this particular type of Bronze Age stuff and you want to talk to us, we'd love to dig more into this stuff because it's cool and a lot of it makes sense to the foundations of 40K. To wrap up the point about the fact that there probably wasn't, this battle didn't exist in history and all of that, it's also important to point out that while historically a lot of peasant uprising resistance movements have grown out of the forest, none of them really did very well. And the one that did result in a lot of change was hundreds of thousands of peasants being slaughtered by the nobility of the region. So the idea that the forest breeds strong people, not historically backed up. However, a lot of times the Nazis used these myths to kind of set the German people as one with something, and it became another way for them to kind of choose how they were going to exclude different groups of people from being true Germans. In this case, they specifically defined the Jewish people as people that were from the steppes or the grasslands, which made them incapable of understanding forest culture. It also served as a way to link the Jewish people to the Romans who had tried to take over the Germanic lands in the past. So the Nazis do this stuff. It's important to kind of acknowledge it and then realize that all of the mythology isn't really connected to the Nazis. There's hundreds of years to 1,000 years of mythology in this area. The Nazis were a 5-year blip. The important connection, the cool connection to the Black Forest, and probably the reason that it's most famous, and the reason that us as Americans enjoy things like Disney, goes to the Brothers Grimm. So they're probably the most famous set of fairy tales that we have, and as I just kind of alluded to, the basis for pretty much everything in early Disney movies are Grimm's fairy tales. They're extremely widespread in the Western world. As an example, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel. These are just some of the examples that I literally could think of off the top of my head. Red Riding Hood is another one. Most of these are not only set in the Black Forest in their original tellings, but
also
a lot of them
mention
it by name. Yeah.
Also, Krampus.
Exactly. Not only did the Black Forest lend itself as the perfect backdrop for Grimm's fairy tales, as the Grimm brothers went around collecting oral traditions of people who had lived in the regions for hundreds of years and writing them down in German, the Black Forest even became a background template for the idea of dark and evil forests in other stories, with possible connections to author Walter Scott's 1814 novel Waverley, which mentions Mirkwood Dingle, a path through a dark forest that leads to a small lake. William Morris's 1889, The Roots of the Mountain, which is set in a dark wood set against the base of a mountain range, which is called Mirkwood. The forested mountain range bearing more than a passing similarities to the Black Forest. And then, of course, we have Tolkien. With Tolkien's Mirkwood, which a lot of Tolkien's work, especially nowadays, we understand as some of his notes and stuff have been published posthumously, that he had a lot of connections to what he wrote from his time being a soldier in World War I, meaning that he would have had access to the Black Forest and regions in this area.
Which also then translates into the Black Forest in Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, well, almost directly. It's even located in the same place on the map.
I mean, yeah. And they took the concept of the Black Forest and made it basically the entirety of Germany size.
Yeah.
That whole land that the Empire is essentially the same kind of terrain, and its jungles is full of spooky shit all the time. Or not jungles, the forests are full of spooky shit all the time. They gotta go and cleanse out orcs, there's giant spiders, there's all kinds of nonsense in there.
Many of these stories, Grimm fairy tales, etc., they use the allegory of monsters to reinforce the dangers of the deep and difficult to navigate woodland. As an example, the witch in Hansel and Gretel is luring and attempting to trap the children. This is actually a warning for kids to not stray too deep off of the known paths. If you guys remember any little bit about that particular fairy tale, they leave breadcrumbs so they can find their way back because they are leaving the known path. So a lot of these stories were just ways to reinforce, like, hey kids, when you're gathering wood in town, since the forest is all around town, just don't go out of eye shot or earshot, be home when the street lamps come on. Marky, I know we talked about history and maps. You doing all right over there?
I'm just trying to find where to fit in. That's all it is. I'm trying.
Well, start thinking, because we always relate it back to 40K. So connections to the Black Death. The Kev, you're really going to have to help with this one.
Yeah, as soon as you said Ober, I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun.
Amruga?
Oberammergau.
One more time.
Oberammergau.
Oberammergau. The Oberammergau Passion Play.
There you go. That was good.
Has been performed every decade since 1634 by the residents of Oberammergau, Bavaria. Legend says that although the village had remained plague-free until 1633, a man named Caspar Shizler brought it home from another village. Over the next 33 days, 81 villagers would die, which was roughly half the village's population. The villagers vowed to God that they would perform a passion play every 10 years depicting the life and death of Jesus if they were spared by God. The first play was held on a stage built over the mass grave which held the deceased plague victims.
That's pretty dark.
Every decade, with very few exceptions, mostly being war or massive natural disasters. There was actually a hurricane that hit the Black Forest in the 90s, which was pretty crazy.
That's weird.
The play has been held, keeping the area safe from plagues and sicknesses that have affected other parts of the region. This was, however, until COVID, when restrictions barred the play from happening on its 10th anniversary. And the plague came back to the village. It's interesting to see recent history even work its way into some of the legend stuff.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah. It's also like, if that's, and of course, like the, legends, and take a lot of this history, the way we're talking about it as legends and stories, because we don't know how much of this is actually. Caspar Schisler never existed. He's a completely made up guy. And this town didn't receive undue exposure to the Black Plague. It followed the standard Black Plague in the area. The start date and the end date are relatively consistent with the start and end date. But again, this is how folklore is built. These things happen, people react to it, changes happen, and then an oral tradition. You tell this story every couple of years, and it gets passed down and passed down and passed down. The Carnival of Witches, the Fastnacht, is now part of the pre-Lent celebrations held in Germany, but it has its roots in a much older tradition. During the last days of winter, as spring dawns, the witches would seek out and expel dark spirits that cause the cold. It's still common for people to dress as demons, scary animals, and spirits being chased by others dressed as witches. This kind of goes back to that Krampus idea. There's these traditions that are held in these areas that are a lot more a mixing of the old pre-Catholic traditions and the post-Catholic traditions being wrapped up, Christian traditions being wrapped up into one. However, during the 15th and 16th centuries, opinions on witches changed, and a lot of women and men were killed as witch hunts swallowed up this entire region. In fact, the Timbred Gallows in the Black Forest is a site where 12 women were hanged for being witches. There's also quite a few of these little towns, and I don't know if you had seen this, Kev, while you were in the area, but quite a few of these little towns have plaques talking about the witch hunts and what happened to who and where. Pretty stereotypical. This guy had too many mistresses or
They
whatever.
didn't really talk about it on our tours, but they did talk about a few people that were killed for having too many wives.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because it's described as being connected to the witch hunts. It's not connected to the Inquisition. And I know that we have a tendency to be like, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition and sneak that joke in. But
the witch hunts weren't entirely the Spanish Inquisition, because it was the Spanish Inquisition.
Disconnected.
That's what it was. It was an Inquisition in Spain.
In Spain, right.
Now, the church still killed people by burning at the stake for being a witch in other places. That didn't change. Just like Salem. Like, we had the Salem witch trials, and they burned the fuck out of people.
And a lot of these witch hunts were really about getting land and power.
Yeah, it was all political or economics. Not entirely, but...
We'll eventually talk about the witch hunters in 40K, the witch hunter faction that's in the 40K lore. And I think around the same time, we should do a Lorus Obscurus on the actual witch hunts, because there's some crazy, like you want to talk about some like fucking seeds for some epic fantasy fucking movies. There's some crazy shit that happened during the witch hunts.
Oh yeah. You want to talk about some crazy Lorus Obscurus funny nonsense? My wife's family is descendants of the Putnams.
Oh wow.
They are the witch hunters.
Yeah, this by the way, for those of you who don't know, we have a Patreon and we bring up some pictures related to what we're talking about. This is that gallows that those 12 women were hanged on. 15 people were hung. 12 of them were women. And they're still there. They're just out there. It's 2 stone pillars with a log on top, like a petrified log on top
That's
of it.
crazy.
And it's just,
It's brutal.
And it's not even like, there's not a town that they're just, like I saw drone footage. They're just in the middle. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be something walking distance, but still. So dwarves are really big to Germanic tradition and Norse tradition. Legend tells of a young woman who had been sold to another man by her brother for marriage, running into the Black Forest to escape the man she'd been sold to. She didn't love this particularly cruel noble that she had been sold to and fancied that she had better chances escaping than becoming his wife. She ran into 7 dwarves who took her in and hid her in the mountain. Later, her brother and the man she was to marry caught up with her, and as they closed in on her hiding spot, it is said that the dwarves pushed rocks from above, falling on both men and killing them. There are some similarities and differences with Snow White and the 7 dwarves in that story, but this is one of those
I don't
things.
remember the story going that way.
Yeah, a little different, right?
I mean, I remember another one too, but that one's a little more.
Well, you got to remember that
territory.
Grimm probably modified the story just slightly to make it better.
Well,
and then
they
Disney
also
heavily modified the story to make it for children.
I read Grimm's fairy tale Snow White earlier because I was trying to decide if I was going to try to put a full fairy tale into the episode because a lot of them aren't that long. And the Snow White one, I was surprised. It's like 3 pages. The Disney version, if you were to turn it into a novel, would be like 125.
Like 3 pages of smut.
Yes, Marky. No, it's the basic beats that we all know. The evil queen wanted to be the fairest in the land. The mirror told her that Snow White was prettier. She tasked one of her huntsmen with taking Snow White out into the forest and murdering her. The huntsman didn't do that. She was rescued by the 7. Well, she stumbled into the 7 dwarves camp. And they had a Goldilocks situation where, like, somebody's eating my food. Somebody sat in my chair. Like, exactly. Then she introduces herself. There's a little bit of back and forth. They find out about the evil queen. The prince shows up. They murder the evil queen.
I thought there was something about, like, Snow White sleeping with the dwarves so that way they protect her or something like that. I mean, it could be a different story. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure that story
possibly
exists.
It's possible because one of the ones was, who is this person in my bed? So it's possible. I mean, that's the thing. All of the Grimm's fairy tales are way darker than Disney made them.
Yeah.
So next up, we have the nymphs of Mummelsea and the Mummelsea King. The nymphs and their king are said to come out during the night to bathe in starlight, hiding in the depths or posing as water lilies during the day. These nymphs are said to enchant men and draw them to the water's edge to either drown them or rob them. One such man, one that was robbed, not drowned, fell in love with one of the young nymphs, and she returned his affection, which angered the Mummelsea King, who now drags certain men that fall into the lake down to their death. So anybody who resembles this guy, apparently the Mummelsea King doesn't take kindly to and drags him down. The king also abducts young women to live as part of his harem under the water, where they might become his new nymphs. Other legends tell of the Ghost King, who also kidnaps and lures people into his own underwater lair. Allegedly, hundreds of people are reported missing in connection to the forest a year. So even though, like, obviously some of these things are a little bit more on the mythology side than on the paranormal side, there's stories like this, and then there's that, well, you know, a couple hundred people went missing in the Black Forest last year. As we talked about in our Missing 411, that could be as easy as people just get fucking lost. And, like, you know, it doesn't have to be anything paranormal. But
so
yeah, it could just be the coincidence.
What are nymphs?
So
nymphs sounded a lot like mermaids. Almost.
So nymphs
are kind of like fairies.
Yeah, they're an elemental fairy, so there's one for every type. They're generally depicted as young, nude women with long hair. Nymphs and sirens and mermaids are all kind of interchangeable in certain lore. But yeah, these would essentially be young, attractive women who lived in the water. There's actually some famous paintings of the nymphs dragging people into water.
Yeah, I remember something similar. I didn't really like the episode, but in Love, Death, and Robots, they have like think it's a siren, and she's like dancing and whatnot. And there's a guy that he's like deaf, so he can't really hear the siren call. And it was like as I was watching it, I was kind of like, this one's. I mean, I'm not a fan of this one.
That one's got some crazy. The thing that one has in it is some crazy good CGI.
Yeah, 100%. But like
the painting that just brought up, those would be water nymphs luring a man into the water.
Yeah,
nymphos.
They're definitely lake sirens or swamp sirens.
Yeah,
rather than
a swamp siren doesn't sound too appealing. I'm not gonna
lie. I'm sure if you were lonely and down in Louisiana and a girl popped her head out the lily pads just like that and was like, "Hey, I'll suck your dick."
hey man. Let me borrow your Hyundai.
There's a really famous painting of a bunch of nymphs lowering a knight into the water, and I can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you gotta maintain your urges.
That's the background to the lore of nymphs and sirens and mermaids. Is very much this like. It's calling you to your doom. Can you stay true to your wife or to yourself or to your instincts? Can you overcome? And that's kind of what that tale is meant.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Drowning is like, I don't know what would be worse, like being set on fire and burning alive, or drowning. I hear drowning is extremely painful.
They're both real shitty.
I feel like fire will probably hurt for like the first
neither
20 seconds. I choose neither. I feel like it'll and then after it kind of burns all your nerve endings, you're kind of like,
burning to death is faster, I believe.
Well, so in burning to death, a lot of times if it's
you asphyxiate before you die.
If you're gonna die, if you're not gonna just get real, the problem with burning and drowning is that you can get really, really fucked up and not die.
Surviving is worse.
Awful. Because when you drown, it can cause lots of ongoing lung damage and lots of ongoing like neurological damage and stuff like that.
Yep.
With burning, the danger is obviously third-degree burns are awful. But with burning, if you're gonna, like Kevin said, usually you're gonna asphyxiate first, and usually at a certain point after a third-degree burn, you don't have nerve endings anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually takes a really long time to be like strangled or drowned. Like in the movies, I know it takes like 15 seconds, but it takes like minutes.
I think the idea in the movie is that once you pass out, they just like crush your windpipe and then just leave you underwater. They're like, okay, he's not going to recover from that. Like he'll die on his own, that it's not like he's dead and dinner, but
I don't know if I'd rather burn alive or drown.
Neither. I choose neither. No. You get thrown into a fucking pool of water, and then somebody kicks a bunch of gasoline on top of it and lights it on fire.
It's you take a bath in napalm.
Do you
light
dive
a match
deep?
And jump into a river?
Do you dive deeper into the napalm so that you drown to death, or do you try to swim out and burn to death?
Yeah, right.
I choose neither. All right. So next up, we have the wild.
Hey, man, the sexy lady said, "Come to me."
Yeah.
It's your choice at the end of the day.
No, not to me.
if you want to go to the nymphos,
they say, "Come in me, not to me."
Okay. I don't know if I want them to do that either.
They'll just drag you down, man. They'll drag you into that watery grave.
They'll go down right on you.
Do they at least give you something before you die?
They edge you all the way and then kill you.
Damn, dude, you die with blue balls? That is like the worst way.
Stereotypically, you get to the edge of the water and you they beckon you to lean down, and you lean down, and then they reach up to encircle you with their arms to kiss you, and then they drag you into the water.
Yeah, then they turn into like little piranhas.
There's two different versions of it. There's like the come next to the water and then like reach up and grab your ass and pull you in like a fucking angry octopus. Or there's the like, oh, come swim with us. Come get in the water. And then you like get in the water and they basically just seduce you to drown yourself. And then once you're like completely submerged, they just don't let you get up. They just hold you down.
Yeah,
there.
man.
It's kind of like that that movie Splash where the mermaid. I can't remember who plays the mermaid, but there's that whole like kissing under the ocean thing that's like super romantic.
Oh,
it's that, except they're killing you.
Yeah, imagine the like, mermaid drags you underwater, and you're like, oh, I need to breathe, and then they start making out with you, and you're like, oh, this is cool, I can just breathe with them, and then you realize that like, oh, yeah, but now I'm too deep to make it back to the surface.
Now the pressure is starting to crush my lungs. What's going?
Yeah, like, oh, but I can still breathe at least, and I'm making out with a hottie, and then you're done.
Hard pass.
I don't know.
Marky chooses neither.
It's definitely hard, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, nah, they're gonna have to come out of the water and be like, nah, fish fucking it, I'm good.
You don't want to fuck in it too?
Nah.
So then next is the wild huntsman. So these come in both the headed and headless variety and might be an inspiration for the headless horseman tale of Sleepy Hollow here in the U.S. So the guy who wrote Sleepy Hollow traveled this area of Germany before he wrote Sleepy Hollow, and he's not the first author we'll talk about who did this. It is said that when a sudden windstorm cracks through the forest, this is the passage of the huntsman. These windstorms often have no explanation and are accompanied by lots of strange sounds, such as unidentified animal screams and other things. Often these headsmen or headless huntsmen or headless horsemen are said to be the revenants who are cursed to wander the earth as undead until they atone for whatever sin trapped them here. Aside from lopping off or shooting off heads, depending on what weapon they have, they're also said to be able to kill with merely a touch. When they have managed to complete their good deed, they have to hold one end of a branch with the stranger that they helped, who holds the other side, instead of shaking hands. If you make the mistake of shaking hands with it, it will kill you. However, if you know the rules and you hold one edge of the branch and the huntsman holds the other edge of the branch will slowly wither and die, and the huntsman is freed.
Hold on.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
that is
very
cool.
specific.
But they kill people, but they can't be put to rest until they do a good deed. So It's like they're tired of when they tire of killing people. That's when, like, you know what, dude? I'm tired.
I'm just tired of killing.
Yeah, I'm tired of just murking people with my boomstick.
He's not only tired,
I think I'm gonna
he's retired.
I got tired twice, boys.
He got tired in real life, and now he's tired in the afterlife. You'd say he's retired.
It's funny. Have you guys ever seen the? There's like they're like stickers for the military, and it says like retired Navy, retired Marines. You guys ever seen those stickers?
Yeah.
I had a buddy that cut off the "re" on it and just put "tired Marine," and I was like, "Man, that is an amazing idea, dude. I want to put that on my car."
Oh man,
just tired Marine. I was like, "That's
tired Marine."
I was like, "That's too good." So if Minion,
they should issue those in basic.
Oh right, yeah. So if Minion or any other guys that are in the services that are listening, hey man. Go to your commissary and go pick up one of those retired stickers.
The problem is the Coast Guard can't go out and buy one that says "coked up Coast Guard," and then that's one of my favorite facts about the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard stopped testing for cocaine because everybody popped all the time, because just being on the boat with a seizure of cocaine is enough to make you pop.
That's
really
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, like just being kind of around it, and they do so much. Like that's their main job, really, is to seize illegal drugs.
It's just like, I'm sorry. I'm like, you're talking to your
I'm sorry,
your staff.
I don't
your
know
staff NCO
why it's happening.
Yeah. Just talking to your staff NCO, like, dude, it's in the air, man. I don't know what to tell you.
like listen, when you joined, you didn't look like Jonah Hill halfway through Wolf of Wall Street. So explain.
I'm assuming the whole branch thing isn't I'm sure there's something else behind the whole idea of extending an olive branch. Like, is that similar to this, or is that a whole other shtick?
I'm not sure. A lot of
It
these
might be kind of in a similar vein.
Because remember, Rome had a huge influence on this area, so
Okay.
the peaceful exchange of branches. Turtle doves are often depicted holding a branch between them. It's a sign of passing off a branch is a sign of peace. But it's interesting that you brought up. They're essentially these like eternal, endlessly hungering killing machines set to do a good deed so they can be freed, so they can atone. Because that's something that a lot of these grim fairy tales kind of circle around the fact that like it's a good thing, but is it a good thing? Like that. But one of the ones that we're all really familiar with is the Pied Piper, and how the Pied Piper came and played his flute and got all the rats to leave the town, and then the people didn't play, so he came back and stole all the children. The original story, there are no rats. He just comes and steals the children. There's no
we
good didn't
part
pay
about
him now revenge. He just literally comes and steals fucking kids.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, because
Right.
the Piper's coming.
So next
Lock up your daughters.
shoot your sons. Love fist. Oh my god, man. So next up we have haunted castles. Legends tell of a procession of ladies dressed in white, which can be seen leaving a few castles in and near the Black Forest. Stories of these women inviting travelers back with them to the castle, only for the visitors to find themselves completely alone in an abandoned ancient structure when the sun rises, which is kind of creepy. You're out in the middle of nowhere, kind of a little cold. These nice women invite you to their warm castle with all this, like, there's a feast laid out or whatever, and then you wake up the next morning and, like, there's no evidence that anybody was ever there.
It kind of reminds me of, I think it was the first Nun movie. Did you watch that one, Ryan?
Yes.
It wasn't great, but
it's The Conjuring. It's like the prequel to The Conjuring.
So
it's
like
called
the
The Conjuring,
Nun,
The Nun.
Yeah, so the Nun, they like there's a bunch of nuns in there, but I believe there was like some that weren't actually there.
I think none of them are there. I think it comes down to the fact that no. You're right. One of them is real.
Yeah, there's like one or two that were real, but like they have like the matriarch nun or whatever, and she was actually like not even alive. Like they show up and like she's covering her face, and they're like, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you," and they like go to like shake her hand, and she just lies still, and it's just a figure. It's like a nun with a veil over her face, and she's talking to them, but not moving. She's completely still. It was super creepy. But the movie wasn't great. The movie wasn't too great. Yeah, it could have been better.
Yeah. So famously, Odenwald Castle, also known as Frankenstein's Castle, is infamous for possibly inspiring Mary Shelley's classic horror novel. In 1673, the castle was home to Johann Conrad Dimple, who was an alchemist obsessed with finding the elixir of life. Local rumors from the time say that Dimple paid body snatchers to bring him fresh cadavers that he experimented on with Dimple's oil, which created mindless undead zombies but never actually returned anybody to life. Also, there is a story that was relayed by one of the Grimm brothers to Mary Shelley's mother that the secret ingredient to Dimple's oil may have been a bolt of electricity. So just an interesting thing. But Mary Shelley toured the area before she wrote Frankenstein. So there's our second American author connection.
Do you think that what he was doing was stimulating like dead bodies with electricity, and they were moving like the
Turkey jerkin?
Yeah, but obviously they weren't alive. But like once he stopped giving them, once he stopped electrifying them, the muscles wouldn't move. So he would think that they're alive, but he would say like, "Oh, they're undead," or like they're not, they're mindless.
Yeah.
Do you think that?
That's essentially so. What when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein, there was a new medical science that they were looking into, which is essentially the basis for like electroshock therapy and electroshock stimulation, like down to the tens units and stuff that we use for like muscle relaxing and stuff nowadays. And That was, I think it was called Galvanics. I could be wrong. This isn't necessarily something that I'm super. I should know more about it because I'm a big Mary Shelley like horror author fan. But as far as like the actual science of the day, but Mary Shelley is kind of world renowned for writing the first science fiction novel because of exactly what you just said. At the time in medical science, cutting edge medical science, they were experimenting with electrocuting bodies, specifically dead bodies, to figure out all the electro biomechanical responses. And they thought at the time that they could legitimately bring the dead back to life. Obviously, they could stimulate the muscles to like contract and react, but they could never actually bring somebody back to life. However, out of this science is, as I mentioned, it's how we got defibrillators. It's how we got, muscle relaxing stuff. It's where electroshock to like reset the brain during a seizure. It's where a lot of this different stuff came from. So it's interesting. And yeah, I wonder if that is,
where it came from, like the stories
he
passed down.
He sat up and, he sat up and his eyes opened, but then, we stopped shocking him. And he stayed sitting up, but he wouldn't respond. Oh, he must be a mindless son. Yeah. That's a cool concept. I like that.
Yeah, where like maybe his assistant saw it, and his assistant's like, "Oh, the doctor brought this man back to life, but he had no soul."
He's talking
and
about
then
it in
that
the
story
bar.
just got passed down.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Or
the story gets passed
one of the
down
dudes
and passed
from
down.
the village is just walking by, looks through the window, and fucking doesn't even ask what's going on. Just
the fuck is that?
Fucking
Exactly.
Jerry's back from the dead.
But it is interesting because body snatching was a huge thing, especially especially as the Renaissance moved into the industrial period, and medical science was kind of advancing. Stealing fresh or nearly fresh, as in not quite dead yet, corpses became a thing. We should probably do a Lorus Obscurus about grave robbing too.
And it's funny because it was like, it's weird. You'd think it would, like, grave robbing, you're like, oh, get them for their valuables. But it was more like, oh no, I need to cut a corpse in half because I need to look at a liver as it fails.
They paid
handsomely
a lot of money, and it started huge industries.
So like the I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Last of Us, but they just came out with the show. Do you think like
it.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Do you think if you infected a dead body with a fungus, because they're saying how the fungus can't survive in the human body because of the internal body temperature is just too hot for fungus to spread. If you infected a nearly dead, dead body or a cold body where the fungus could thrive, that it could animate it?
Probably not. And the majority of the reason for that is that the insects that cordyceps do infect are a lot more simplistic than human musculature.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like an old school pulley versus like a multi-piston hydraulic machine.
Yeah.
Because of that, there's just too many things that the
cordyceps can't figure out.
Thank you. Would have to figure out. I mean, at the same time, do I think that a mushroom colony could grow in a dead body? 100%.
Oh yeah.
I think the body would just turn into a mushroom colony. So, I don't think it would be able to get up and move around.
So cordyceps moves your body kind of like the way you move a crab leg. Like, how when you grab that
where
little
there's
piece
it's a
inside
pulley
the crab
system.
leg, and it kind of like, but all you can do is contract the whole thing, or extend the whole thing. You don't have any nuance.
Right.
The cordyceps
where you're not
have any
sending
nuance.
Electrical,
because
like once you're brain dead, you can't send like electrical signals to your impulses to your body. So
you
technically that's not a pulley system.
Yeah. But cordyceps, what everybody mistook originally, everybody thought that cordyceps is the reason, is possessing the bug, the ant, whatever it happens to be, and mind controlling it to crawl up on something to then so that it can spore from a higher altitude. And it's doing that, but it's not doing that in a puppet master way. It's doing that in a it's fucked up the brain of the insect to the point where the insect seeks
Yeah,
a
it's
high point. It didn't like
yeah.
it's not that it's steering the insect to go anywhere
Right.
particular. It's making the
The insect is still,
still in control. It's just that's the only thing it wants to do. And then once it
Now
gets there, that's when the cordyceps grows into the limbs and basically just locks it to whatever
locks
it
it
is.
into place.
Yeah, I didn't realize how like morbid it was.
Cordyceps
me
is
and my
gross.
brother, when
People
and my brother,
eat that shit. I'm like, why would you
Right?
chance this?
Yeah, no thank you. So me and my brother, we used to go to Red Lobster when we were kids. That was our fancy dinner, like for birthdays and whatnot. But we would take like the crab claws and we'd have like a crab claw fight. So you'd grab that little fin and you'd like push it
Yeah.
in and out, and it would open and close the crab claw. But well, I mean, obviously, never realizing that you're essentially playing with a dead
With
hand.
a corpse.
You're playing with a corpse, yeah, or the
It's
shell.
super morbid when you think about
It's
it.
so, yeah, exactly.
now
And I was
that
like
you-
just thinking about that.
Now that you brought that up, how do you feel about like chicken wings?
They're tasty.
I was like, what about chicken wings?
But like
I've never played.
apply that same logic with your crab. Like that is a corpse to
Right.
like chicken wings, like slurping on the bones.
Yeah.
That's eating though. Like
Eating in
we
general
did-
is actually really gross when you think about it.
Yeah.
I just don't think about it.
Exactly. Me either.
I think about how good it tastes. That's it.
Yep.
Right.
So I was gonna say I never played with my food like that, but that's not true. We went to a crawfish boil at one point when we were driving across the U.S. and we positioned a bunch of the crawfish as if they were like having a conversation in a spa. And one of our friends got really mad at us, and we were like, "Oh, we found." Yeah. We thought it was funny, but like I am a meat eater, so sorry that my sense of humor is screwed up. I don't mean to offend anybody. I eat meat.
Yeah.
I eat
so,
meat and I'll make jokes about it. Deal with it.
the funny or the so on the other side of what you just brought up, Marky, there's a couple of interesting things about fungi. It's something that Emmy brought up on TikTok, which we're now going to talk about on the podcast because now I'm here. So somebody said, would eating, or she had posed the question, is eating an orc eating a vegetable, or is orc meat vegetarian? And there were a bunch of people who kind of like, because orcs are fungi and jumped in and out. So
Right.
The interesting thing is that fungi have more in common with biological animals than they do with plants.
Yep.
So it's really interesting that like mushrooms are seen as a vegan choice because mushrooms are more related to humans than mushrooms are related to trees.
Yep. I love that.
So that's one thing that's interesting. And I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil
So I
deGrasse
can't get
Tyson,
into it. But he gets into it. He gets into a whole thing about it, which is pretty interesting.
Really? I'm gonna have to listen to that.
The next thing that I'll say is that the two things that legitimately worry because they have tendencies in certain cases to cause zombie-like activity are, I keep wanting to say cordyceps, but they're quadriceps?
Cordyceps?
It's a D. It's not corticosteroids. It's cordyceps and rabies. Those are the two things that have things that they do in stuff that is zombie-like. So rabies essentially causes a swelling and overheating in the brain, which impairs most of your judgment other than anger. It makes you incredibly thirsty, and it makes you very, very like violent, specifically like bitey.
Isn't it light
And
sensitive
rabies,
also?
Yes, rabies does a bunch of weird shit.
I think that's like the
and-
swelling of the frontal cortex pushes on your eyes,
Yeah.
making you sensitive to light.
Right.
Like there's a whole bunch of other things that come with it.
Wasn't
But
one of the zombie
rabies-
movies based off rabies, like 28 days
Quarantine.
later?
28 days later.
Yeah. Well,
The rage virus is based
the
on
rage
rabies.
virus was like a modified rabies virus. They used like
Mm.
a rabies carrier or something.
Yep.
And then quarantine, which is actually based off. You actually probably know what the
Wreck.
original. Yeah, those two are both rabies based
Yeah.
viruses as well.
Induced, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And the zombie apocalypse world stuff that I wrote and filmed a little bit of in the early 2000s was based on the rabies virus as well. It was a weaponized rabies virus. So
it makes sense. It's scientifically plausible is why a lot of like sci-fi has to have some kind of realism to make it believable. Like that's what makes it sci-fi over just like blatantly fantasy.
And that's the reason that Last of Us used mushrooms. It's the same idea as they're using mushrooms in the same way. But yeah. So next up, we've got werewolves. Wizards and sorcerers in German tradition can take on many shapes to travel through a forest. I said werewolves.
Is that like uwu werewolves, or is this like?
Oh God, this is like traditional werewolves. This is not space wolves.
It's like what's that show? Starlight? Not show. The movie series. Twilight. Yeah. Do they glisten in the sun? Do they?
Actually, that would be.
Wait, no, that was the vampires.
Yeah, that would be the dark Eldars that glisten in the sunlight.
Or sparkle. They sparkle.
Yeah. Although the werewolves in that were actually pretty brutal, because when it came time to like have the giant fight,
giant wolves.
Yeah, the werewolves literally turned into massive fucking werewolves and just like tore vampires in half.
The big problem.
In Twilight?
Yeah. Like I didn't realize that series would get like brutal, but there's definitely like a 5-minute throwdown where it just fucking all the vampires fighting all the fucking werewolves, and it's just people getting torn in half left and right.
It takes like 3 movies and most of a 4th movie to get there.
But there's a fucking fight scene, and it is gnarly. The whole budget for all 4 movies goes to that fight scene.
Well, it's a bunch of fucking interpersonal high school drama.
It's family Game of Thrones.
Yeah, family friendly Game of Thrones.
It's family drama Game of Thrones rather than royal drama Game of Thrones, involving a whole bunch of families.
It was a Harry Potter fanfic that
started it all. I really like the werewolves or lycanthropes from Underworld. Like those are my favorite.
Yeah, that's a little bit more where your head should be. Werewolves. So wizards and sorcerers in Germanic tradition take on many shapes to travel the forest. One legend says a hunter wounded a wolf with his rifle, and the next day a man in the village was found with a wound in the same area made by the same weapon. However, the werewolf hiking path in Bedburg and its convicted werewolf, Peter Stump, is what we're going to continue talking about. Stump was a German farmer and alleged serial killer accused of werewolfery, witchcraft, and cannibalism, and werewolfery was the quoted word from the article, so it's the one I'm reading. Peter Stump was most likely born in Bedburg in 1530 and most likely had the surname of Stump as he was missing his left hand. It was reported that a wolf seen in the area that was making a lot of attacks was missing its left forepaw. His trial is one of the most infamous werewolf trials in history, and in 1589, after being stretched on a rack, he confessed to having practiced black magic since he was 12. He claimed that he had been given a magic belt or girdle by the devil that let him transform into a wolf. For 25 years, Stump had an insatiable bloodlust, and he had feasted on the flesh of goats, sheep, men, women, and even children. Under torture, he confessed to killing and eating 14 children, 2 pregnant women, and their unborn children, as well as his son and several other unnamed people. He is also accused of having an incestuous relationship with his daughter, a witch that was sentenced to die along with him. He also confessed to having sex with a succubus while the devil watched. By the way, as I mentioned, he was being tortured on the rack when he confessed to all of this. His daughter and mistress were flayed.
I've heard you'll be willing to confess to a lot of stuff when you're
pretty much
doubled in height by the hour.
Yeah, right. So he was executed alongside his daughter Belle and his mistress Catherine. Apparently, Belle is pronounced Sybil, but it is spelled Belle, and I am not saying Sybil. German, what are you doing to me? His daughter and mistress were flayed alive and strangled. He was put on a wheel where his flesh was torn from his body in 10 places with a red-hot poker. Then his arms and legs were stripped of their flesh in the same way. Then his limbs were systematically broken with the blunt back end of an axe head before he was finally killed by beheading. Then his corpse, along with those of the women, were burnt on a pyre. All of this was done so he specifically, but none of them would return from the grave. So that was like the level of superstition. The wheel that he was executed on was decorated then with a figure of a wolf, and his severed head was put on top of it. And this was erected in the area by local authority as a warning to other potential wizards,
let that be
sorcerers,
a
and
lesson
witches.
to you.
Right? but this is like, if you look at all into the real like werewolf and vampire history, the stuff that they actually did to people and the stuff they actually believed, like, this happened. This is historically covered execution that happened in the Black Forest.
Well then,
Yeah.
he's like the Liver King.
Yes, it's exactly like the River King.
Just the first thing that popped into my mind. I was like, man, this dude's like the Liver King, dude.
just eating whatever.
Just eating testicles and all of it.
So next up, we have UFOs in the Black Forest. There have been several sightings in the modern era of UFOs in and around the Black Forest. However, the famous one is in 1936, a crashed flying saucer was discovered in Freiburg. This gets deep into Vril Society and Nazi UFO tech, though, and it's probably its own whole episode where we'll dig into different UFO sightings. So just know that that's part of the spook that happens in this area of the world. Next up, we have Der Grossmann, also known as the Tall Man. This is a disfigured man with bulging and glowing white orbs for eyes. He has many arms, similar to Slender Man. Der Grossmann has his origins in woodcuts, however, from the late 16th century. So this is not somebody converting Slender Man over into a myth. This has been fucking depicted in medieval woodcuts. Children who had misbehaved were sent into the forest or drawn into it by Der Grossmann's lure, where he stalks them down and tortures them until they confess to their sins to their parents. Or you might just abduct and kill them instead.
Not gonna lie, that kind of gave me chills. Whenever your kids are misbehaving, you're like, all right, go into the forest, bitch. You're just like, but mom.
I'm sure
like,
it's kind of one of those like,
you want to act like a little piece of
shit? Eat all your broccoli, or Der Grossmann will get you.
Yeah,
that's gnarly, man. I get.
Could you imagine you and your brother fighting it? Then all of a sudden, your parents are like, "Hey, go pick the firewood from the forest." And you're like,
"No,
I don't want to go into the forest, mother. Don't make me go into the forest." Well, you shouldn't have been acting like a little scheiß.
Little scheiße.
Now, you and your little scheiß brother will go pick the firewood.
That's funny. Oh god, dude.
Dude, the woodcut's creepy as fuck.
I can't remember which movie it was. I think it was one of the Conjuring movies.
Yeah,
Ryan.
that woodcut is fucking very creepy.
Creepy.
I mean, like that angly one that you just scrolled by is pretty creepy too, but in a different way. That's like alien, like weird alien creepy.
Yeah.
You're thinking of the
Crooked Man.
The Crooked Man.
That's yeah, you remember that
too? Yeah.
Okay, that was two. It was like one of his toys or something, right?
Yeah, and he turned.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, I can't even. My hair's Marky. Fuck you.
I know, dude. Thinking about
Man is legitimately one of the scarier things from the Conjuring universe.
Yeah,
like
dude,
it's just because it's done so well.
Yeah,
like, really.
Yeah. So they do that. What do you call it? Like the still animation or the still
stop motion.
Yeah, the stop motion animation. That's what got you. Remember Gothica?
Yeah.
First time that stop motion fucked me up was Gothica, where she like looks down the corridor and that dude like does his little stop motion walk like out of view, and you're just like, oh fuck that.
And that was a person. Like they had a person that they recorded doing stop motion, which is just fucking great.
He's just pop locking down the corridor. You're just like, oh fuck that. in an insane asylum. So yeah, that was Gothica was the first one that got me, and then Crooked Man in that Conjuring movie, that shit fucked me up.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky. All right, so the last one we'll talk about is a little bit more of a that's weird and a little less of a spooky, but that's Hell's Valley. So this is a tight gap that is now maybe 2 to 4 cars in width with 420-foot tall rock faces, and it's located between Britain and Buchenbach?
Breitna.
Or Breitna and Buchenbach? Okay. It's located between the small villages of Breitna and Buchenbach. Before the road was added, the gap was only about 30 feet wide. According to a legend, a knight from Frankenstein Castle went on a deer hunt into the valley, but the stag's agility and speed made it impossible to catch. Giving chase on horseback, the knight witnessed the stag leap the 30-foot gap to make its escape, so it leaped from one edge of the gap to the other. In 1856, a wooden stag was first put on one side of the gorge for a wedding. They put a stage on one side for the wedding, and they put a wooden stag on the other side. It has been replaced several times with other versions, but the current one, which is sitting there now, which you can see from one of the trains as you pass through the area, was put up there on October 23rd, 2010. It's pretty cool. Stags have also been documented jumping as far as 40 feet. So it is not necessarily out of the norm that, especially back in the day when the gap was shorter, the stag would have been able to jump from one end to the other.
That and also stags in general, like the deer has been a big thing in the forest people culture for a long time too. So it's like an iconic. Yeah. I mean, everybody's seen Jägermeister.
Yeah, or like Harry Potter. That's the little
Patronus.
I forgot what they call it. The Patronus. Yeah.
Yep. And it's very much like that. It's that whole idea.
Isn't the Princess Mononoke the spirit of the forest is a fucking giant ass stag too? I just remembered that.
Yeah.
Pretty common. So to drag us back into the realm of Warhammer 40K, first let's talk about the Dark Forest hypothesis.
That picture that you've got up right now, it's so like simplistic and very like minimalistic,
and freaky as fuck,
but so creepy, so well done.
That dude is fucked.
I think what
if he makes a noise,
I think what does it the best is none of them have faces. Like they're all looking in different directions, except for the one that's looking right at both you, the viewer, and that dude
hidden behind the tree.
If it wasn't like able to just like, it's that one is making eye contact with us while looking for him. It's like, yeah, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
Get on that Patreon so you can see this stuff.
I think I talked. Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
We gotta get him.
Get him. But in all honesty, that picture is fucking cool.
I think I talked about this in the pod before, Ryan. There was a movie on Netflix that I saw. I want to say it took place in Germany, but it was like these campers, these three dudes.
Yeah, The Ritual.
The Ritual, yes.
I believe The Ritual takes place in the Black Forest.
Really?
I might be wrong.
That movie, I was like, oh damn, that's some shit. But Ritual, that was a.
Oh no, it's in Sweden.
Oh, Sweden.
It's a Swiss forest. But yeah, but very. I mean, yeah,
Black Forest.
Right,
yeah.
right vibes. Right vibes.
Yep.
Definitely the right vibes. There's a psychological thriller that came out of a small production house in Canada that's actually about a bunch of people going to a LARP, a Norse-themed LARP, and they kind of don't explain whether or not the wild hunt actually shows up and fucks with people, or if the people in the situation are just having that breakdown of fantasy and reality mentally. But like, it is a fucking freaky psychological thriller. Like, and you'd think a psychological thriller taking place during a LARP, that's gotta be funny. Like, no, it's legitimately freaky. Like, people getting fucking brutally murdered.
And you're like, oh, this
is... And it happens in this weird forest.
I thought this was going to be fun, but this is terrifying.
Yeah, it's a really good... Well, it is a very well done movie and a very compelling story for how little money they spent making it. I mean, obviously, like, I don't think any of the actors have been in anything other than TV shows. So it's not like there's like, I can't say Oscar winning performances or whatever, but
Right.
very, very good movie. I'll try to look up the name and drop it. Anyway, so the dark forest hypothesis, to get us back into the sci-fi realm, as described by the astronomer and author David Brim in his 1983 Summary of Arguments for and Against the Fermi Paradox, the dark forest hypothesis suggests many alien civilizations exist throughout the galaxy, but are both silent and paranoid. It further presumes that any spacefaring civilization would see all intelligent life as an inevitable threat and seek to destroy any of these threats that make themselves known. In this way, the galaxy is a dark forest filled with armed hunters stalking through the trees like ghosts. So for those of you who are not aware, the Fermi Paradox is essentially the concept or the idea that the galaxy is too big for there not to be alien life. So it proposes a bunch of reasons as to why we don't see it yet.
Yeah.
One of them being the Great Filter, which every civilization has to pass through a certain number of filters. And a great filter, as an example, would have been the extinction of the dinosaurs. Without the extinction of the dinosaurs, mammals never would have risen, humans never would have evolved, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. And then
so the Fermi Paradox
there's
kind of tries to balance why we don't see
splitting
more.
the atom was another one.
Right. That's another one. That's another great filter. And whether or not we destroy ourselves or survive through it.
And then, climate change and all, like, the Industrial Revolution. There's so much that we could do to fuck us up before we even get to the point where we can go meet aliens.
So sorry to sidetrack, but
yeah, go for it.
Splitting the atom. Who was the guy that was like, did they know that splitting an atom was going to cause that?
They knew that it was going to be a bigger bomb than the mother of all bombs. They knew that it was going to be more devastating. But they split the
atom in a different way first. Like, they were able to split. I think you can observe, because since they had already seen radiation, they already, I guess, had observed splitting of atoms and understood the process, I would say.
Well, so they knew that.
And not all radiation is super negative. Like radio waves are broadcast signals are technically a form of radiation.
Heat is
vitamin
radiation.
D, which we need to survive, is technically a form of radiation. So
radiation just means that it's coming off of, it's radiating off of something.
Yeah.
It's ultraviolet radiation, gamma radiation. There's a spectrum.
It's
okay.
Yeah.
So they essentially knew that it would cause essentially an explosion.
The
guy wasn't like
there's a release of energy.
They didn't know that it was gonna. They did not know the nuclear fallout part. That was not understood.
They didn't.
And I think
understand
that's the
that
question
part.
you're asking, right?
No, he's asking if they knew it was gonna go boom when they did that.
Well, I mean, I guess the funny part of my brain is like, I'm gonna split this atom, and then he blows himself to shit. Kind of thing, and it's like,
splitting one atom
how you do that.
Doesn't do that.
They knew that it released enough energy that it could be scaled up into a weapon.
Exactly. So they did it on
source.
They did it on a very small scale where it wouldn't. It's like, imagine the guy who first mixed nitroglycerin.
This is all armchair. This is 100% armchair physics, by the way. None of Kevin and I have an idea, but we're not.
Like, I've been to the nuclear bomb museum,
yeah.
but I'm not a physicist. But
yeah.
They knew, like, and my dad worked at a nuclear power plant, quite explained it to me pretty good, and I've seen so many videos explaining how it works. Like, when you split an atom, it's like you can light a drop of gasoline on fire. That's all well and good. It's going to go whoosh. That's fine. It's not going to do really much. That's a whole nother thing than filling an entire enclosed warehouse with gasoline fumes and then lighting it on fire. Right. That's a totally different ballgame.
But an atom can do, depending on the atom and depending on how it's split, can do the damage of a warehouse full of gasoline fumes.
But I mean, even then scaled, splitting one atom, you're probably really never going to get that. Like, to make a nuclear bomb work, you have to, there's a lot of layers that it has to go through to first create a self-sustaining nuclear reaction, and then they have to explode that. It's like a multi-step bomb. It's not like as simple as let's take these two pieces of uranium and then spark them together and suddenly it's an explosion. It's way more complicated than that.
But they didn't really know the Pandora's box they were opening.
Right.
There's that famous quote by Oppenheimer where he says, "And then Vishnu, the many-handed god of death, appeared to me as
Yep.
if from scripture and said, 'I have become death, the destroyer of worlds.'" Like, he very much, like, as they witnessed the first couple of tests, they were like, "Oh fuck." But they put a bunch of Marines like
Mm-hmm.
2 miles away from the explosion to observe it and record stuff, not knowing that cancer and radiation was going to be a thing.
Yep.
And there is an entire valley in Southern California, or not Southern California, in this area that was used by, in the White Sands area, that was used by Hollywood for fucking years to film stuff that was supposed to take place in the Old West and in the Middle East and stuff like that. And all of the actors involved, like John Wayne, as an example, fucking died of like weird cancers. And they didn't know. They had no idea that these people were being exposed to this stuff because we hadn't had enough time yet. Yeah, we hadn't had enough time yet to look back at it and be like, oh, hindsight being 2020, maybe this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was only recently that like stuff like what is it called? The Devil's I hate my memory sometimes. It was like the Devil's fucking atom or some shit like that. But they were testing it, and essentially they weren't aware of the type of radiation that they would be exposed to.
Talking about the God particle?
No. The devil's ball.
Yeah, it was something like
that. There's this ball that contains the devil's kettle. There's a ball that contains a little piece of like uranium or something at the center of it.
Yep.
And this guy was doing tests on it, doing observation tests on it, and then like he fucking horrible. That was actually that was when they discovered that radiation did stuff, because that dude died in like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and horribly too.
Yeah.
The
like
demon core
fell off. Demon core, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I knew exactly. Like as soon as you got a little bit further, I knew what you're talking about. But yeah, we are probably kind of in the post-nuclear age, if you want to like. It sounds weird to say, but we're kind of to the point where we kind of understand the technology a little bit more, and we're like working towards fusion and stuff like that. And this is all super high science concepts that I understand exist, and I'm very interested in them, but I know enough to get in trouble, not enough to explain it. But we're probably
I know enough to get on an FBI watch list.
By saying something in the podcast. But it's definitely one of those things where, like, nuclear power plants, especially the Thorium salt ones are relatively safe. Like they're way safer than people realize.
Oh yeah,
like
there's like dumpster sized ones that they could bury in the ground and be perfectly safe.
We've kind of perfected a bunch of that, and like we understand a lot more of it than we did in 1940.
The technology has advanced significantly.
Yeah, that was Oppenheimer. And von Braun. The Nazi.
I was about to say, both of which have German names, bringing us back to, man, Germans have been making crazy stuff for a long time.
Yeah. But Oppenheimer and Einstein were Americans. Von Braun was a relocated.
It was a paperclip.
Yeah, Operation
Paperclip.
But yeah, again, if you guys want to hear weird shit on the other side that's not necessarily spoopy, we can get into all that stuff too. Mm-hmm. All right, so the Black Forest in Warhammer 40K, aside from the various connections to storytelling and Grimm's fairy tales, probably no better connection can be made right off the bat with 40K than Beast's lore in his Byzantine Knights, being Grimm's fairy tales and Disney. We can take the idea of the Black Forest in a few different ways. A particularly isolated area of space on the fringes might exist like a dark forest. Any race in the area is either A, aware of the Imperium and staying silent for self-preservation, or B, unaware and silent for the same fears that are presented in the dark forest hypothesis. Or a region of space like the Veiled region could exist as an analog to the Black Forest, a stretch of space that was at one point a natural border or barrier due mostly to its particular location or inherent challenges. We see this a lot with the Tau. A lot of Tau stuff is named after oceanic phenomenon for the same reason.
You could even use like an asteroid belt If you wanted
Exactly.
to do like a solar system, like a planet that didn't want to expand outwards because there's an asteroid belt like our Cooper
Right.
belt.
But
Like, oh,
essentially with
don't go
the
out there. Some weird shit happens in the
yeah,
belt.
but essentially with the whole idea of like this area on the border of the Rhine River is the borderlands. Don't go into the border. You know, we have not settled the borderlands. It's too much energy to do it. It totally could exist in space. However,
Hmm.
for my take, I relish the idea of a death world, but instead of the hyper dangerous jungle types we see all the time, it's a planet entirely encased in a primeval conifer forest, a place with massive fir
Like
trees covered in small lakes and millions of rivers, but no seas. Also, colder
the
region,
forced moon of Endor.
yes, colder region of the star's habitable zone. Its warmest regions are just a few degrees above the 60s during the warmest months of the year. So the few places that the Imperium would be able to land on this planet are the lowland approaches to some of the larger rivers, river deltas, any place that a vertical takeoff and landing craft could land to maintain some sort of, or start to maintain some sort of spaceport. Places that maintain the highest average temperatures. The conditions around these rivers would also combine to create massive thick fogs, which drift into the forest, creating that kind of semi-permanent twilight that you see in the stories of the Black Forest or in the conditions of the Black Forest. Massive creatures, much like boars, roam in packs, almost unchecked by the population of the planet, as they are capable of killing a man quite easily. Think like a hippo, but with more anger and a willingness to actually eat what they kill.
Like a rhino and a javelina.
Right, like a rhino,
So
a rhino. Yes, 100. An angry rhino javelina. Jesus, that's.
like a smaller than a rhino,
I thought.
you know,
I thought my
but
hippo
shaped in
comparison.
mentality of a
I
javelina.
thought my hippo comparison was dangerous. Your javelina comparison's worse, man.
Could you imagine if you crossbreeded a rhino and a javelina?
Uh,
God, that would be the fucking angriest
nobody,
fucking pack thing ever.
nobody would be able to play golf in Arizona. It'd be awful.
It would be terrible. They'd all have to come to Palm Springs.
So large animals that are a wolf-like apex predator, which have evolved in the absence of the large primates, have begun to develop into bipedal hunters, but don't have that like primate side. They don't have that tool using side, but you basically get big ass werewolves when humans arrive. Things that mirror the
Yeah.
human legends of werewolves, but the smallest of which is the size of an orc knob, and they only get bigger from there.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, the more you talk about it, the more it sounds like Caliban.
I know. I didn't realize I was doing that.
You didn't realize you were writing Caliban without writing Caliban.
So the dense canopy and unique magnetism of the planet make conventional navigation difficult at times, with Auspex sensors often detecting bounced and garbled transmissions, some of which were sent decades ago. These ghost signals also affect visual data, which is often blurred or out of focus or has a double exposed imagery, even though double exposure isn't something that should happen with digital records. So you get that kind of like somebody sent a message a
After
decade
image.
ago, and for some reason now it's showing up out of order.
Hmm.
The other thing that I came up was an aggressive carnivorous flora which grows along the lake and river edge. These are massive colonies of lily pads, each containing a cluster of cattails and a single flower. They're evolved so that their stalks vibrate and sing in the wind, a song that entrances simpler minds, even those of ogrins and some humans, causing them to walk to the water's edge, where the whipping root vines drag the victims into the tangled, watery grave of their root systems. A place where even the trees swallow any ground cleared in a few years' time, making the best place to build naturally rocky outcroppings that exist on the planet. And you pretty much don't want to use that dead wood because even that dead wood might sprout into a new tree. So most of the best building materials are going to be stone and ceramite. So you're going to get lots of like castles and stuff. So this is a death world that's valuable export is determined by the rate at which its trees grow, make it one of the best sources for real wood products in the Arconian sector. Or I'm sorry, in the Carcosan sector. The question I have is, does this breed highly skilled and tough warriors like Catachan, men and women destined for the guard or for the Adaptus Astartes? Or is it a penal world where the doomed are sent to harvest as much as they can before the world invariably tears them apart?
I'd say, as with Warhammer, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
There you go. Yeah, we got. We'll name the Death World and put it somewhere in the Carcosan sector.
Here we go. I think I can nail that one down.
Okay.
So it's a fringe. It's more on the fringe edge.
Yeah.
Penal, like corporate-backed penal work gangs.
So there's a noble
They're not like
family.
corporate backed.
There's a noble family that owns this area of space, or this Death World.
Right, and contracts out the use to the Imperial.
And if you survive like 10 years in the work gangs on the planet,
then you're free.
You get you get the opportunity to join the guard.
Oh,
and then,
there we go.
And then we get kind of it's like a Tanith regiment,
Tanith Catachan,
but it's worse. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, they would kill every commissar they met.
Can you imagine? You're just like you're in a trench, and like you're fucking freaking out because you just saw a Chaos Space Marine, and you're like ranting to the dude next to you, and he's just on his like 7th glow stick or glow stub or whatever the fuck they're called, and he's like,
low stick.
Let me tell you, boy. The wolves on my home world.
he's like, when the trees start talking. Talking what? No. When the trees start talking.
he like stands up and shoots his las rifle at the Space Marine a couple of times, and then he like ducks back down, and the other guy's like, how can you even deal with it? Boy, the wolves where I come from are bigger.
Right?
Yeah, I like the idea of like more. I was thinking like a Forest Moon of Endor, like that, but make it a Death World. Like it's the Sequoia National Forest.
Believe it or not, as much as nobody wants to talk about it, Endor is pretty much a Death World.
Oh yeah,
the stormtroopers that were stationed on Endor hated it. If they left their compound, they were guaranteed to get attacked by Ewoks.
Yeah.
Like, they don't ever talk about that in Star Wars much, but if you go look at all the backstory, like, the Ewoks have been eating people for hundreds and hundreds of years on there.
Yeah.
That's just what they do. Ewoks are predators. They are like the apex predator on that moon.
They're like little tiny spear-carrying piranha.
Well, and because you got to remember, they have better sight than humans. They have better hearing than humans. They're smaller. They're naturally camouflaged. They can climb the trees. It's their home terrain, you know.
So totally,
they're primitive, but like, I don't know if anybody's played Battlefront 2, but there's an Ewok mission where it's humans
versus Ewoks
as the stormtroopers. And it's their take on the zombie game mode.
Oh god.
So it's stormtroopers. It's stormtroopers. No. It starts out with one Ewok and a bunch of stormtroopers, and they're all scattered all over the forest. And it's nighttime. It is pitch fucking black.
And the Ewok player can see.
And the Ewok player has like a light layer of night vision that can kind of go over and can do like a enhanced senses ping, like to go out, like smelling. And but the stormtroopers don't have unlimited flashlight.
Right.
So they're like toggling on and off their flashlight, you know, like rotating who's got their light on at what time. Right. Trying to like all group up and like watch each other's six, and then all of a sudden you hear this little rustling in the bushes and little and a fucking spear comes flying out of the woods and nails Timmy to a tree, and you're like, oh fuck, they got Timmy.
so at the risk of turning into Under the Sarlacc of Madness for a second here, or in the Sarlacc of Madness. There we go.
In the Sarlacc of Madness.
Our long awaited Star Wars podcast that we're never going to start. There is always this weird conversation that happens where like people are like, well, why doesn't Stormtrooper armor protect against Ewok weapons? Why doesn't Stormtrooper armor protect against the blind Jedi in the Rogue One? And like the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is that Stormtrooper armor is designed to dispel
for blasters.
Yeah, blasters, which is a heat and laser weapon. It's designed to
In a
to
way,
just yeah,
blasters deal kinetic force, which transitions into both heat and kinetic
yeah.
energy on
It's just
impact.
not the
Um,
same.
but
Yeah,
it's
it's not.
but the
Yeah,
armor isn't. It was specifically that it was they had armor to defend against bullets, so somebody made blasters.
and then they had to
So then they
change the
made
armor to defend against
and then they had to
blasters.
change the armor to defend against blasters because it doesn't you can't really the materials, that
Yeah,
was their balance is you had to have one or the other. And then the manufacturing for slug throwers as opposed to blasters is a lot more like nonsense because you got to gunpowder and all that other
right,
stuff,
right.
whereas blasters, they use the same fuel to fuel their starships as they do to power it just makes more sense to just run it all off the same
Yep.
thing. There's no jamming. There's all hundreds of shots in a magazine. It's the reason that they chose lasgun for Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
The logistics of it makes more
But
sense. So the
it's
armor
not
isn't
built as
designed.
impact ballistic armor. Like that's not how it's designed. So you get, and if you've been, even if you've been in impact armor, which I've done, I've
Like plate
fought
mail
in
and you
plate
get
mail.
hit.
Sometimes you get hit in the chest with a fucking staff or hit in the head with a fucking staff and it rings your goddamn bell.
Or think about it this way.
Oh
Football
yeah,
players are wearing
concussions. Yeah.
impact helmets. Literally, that is it. That helmet's job is to take a football hit,
Yeah, a 300
basically head
pound
on,
man hitting you.
two 300-pound dudes running head on into each other. And that's what that piece of material is literally engineered. They spend probably millions of dollars on these
Yeah.
helmets, and you still get your bell
Yeah,
rung.
and they
Like
still
it's the physics
yeah,
of
they
it.
still
Your
don't
your
always
brain
work.
gets rattled in your head no matter what's happening on the outside. Like people want to experience what we're talking about, that'd be a good way to try it.
Get into armor and get hit in the head.
No, the Battlefront 2 mission.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's multiplayer, so it's dude, it is legit. Like I get the sweats when I'm
Yeah.
playing that.
Well, and it's just like that whole that to get back to the armor thing. Like at one point, I was talking to a dude who also
Mhm.
fights in medieval armor, and he's like, "Well, I've taken a sword to the head, and I can deal with it." And I'm like, "Right, you've taken a sword from the head from amateurs like us who have been fighting for like maybe 4 or 5 years. You want to take a bow staff to the head from fucking Donnie Yen, who's been doing martial arts for 45 years?
Right,
Guarantee
and knows
you,
how to focus
yeah."
all of that power right into the strike. Like it's gonna be way worse.
Yeah, I guarantee you
Yeah.
Donnie Yen can fucking crack a stormtrooper open with a staff.
Well, and if you notice, some of those stormtroopers are still writhing around on the ground when
Oh
he's
yeah.
done.
Oh yeah.
Like he's
There's
not killing them.
he's just
He's just
knocking them the fuck out.
incapacitating. I believe the proper term is rendered combat
In
ineffective.
effect, yeah, exactly. And
Although
like
stormtroopers weren't really combat effective to begin with.
and that's before even talking about whatever force mumbo jumbo, space wizard shit's happening behind it.
Exactly. Who
Yeah.
knows what if he's channeling force into those strikes or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
But I mean, just getting rocked, like just getting your bell rocked by a baseball bat, which is essentially what he's doing.
Yeah, it
Like,
knock you out. It knock you the fuck out. It kills
oh yeah,
zombies. It's gonna knock you out.
it breaks bones. Think about it this way:
Yeah.
his hits are strong enough to like shatter your kneecap and break your arm.
That kinetic
It's
force.
definitely the force is still being
Yeah.
transferred. Yeah, the armor is dissipating some of it, but
Well,
it's still rattling your body. It's getting the wind knocked out of you at least.
it's like being in a car crash. Yes, the car protects you. Yes, you
It
still
still hurts.
fly around like a ping pong ball when you're in a car crash. But yeah,
Yeah, the seatbelt only does so much.
right. Well, that'll wrap it up for our second Lorus Obscurus on haunted forests. We'll be back with a few more episodes focused on these creepy locations. Have a freaky forest or jungle story you want to share with the podcast, maybe even your own experiences in the Black Forest. Reach out to us by email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or jimdarkgaming@gmail.com. Join our community on Discord. Not only do we talk about the lore, hobby, and tactics of Warhammer 40k, but you can get involved in other topics like Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Magic the Gathering, role-playing games, video games, and so much more. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, or find us at our website, www.underthehiveofmadness.com. If you'd like to help the podcast grow, we got a couple of ways to do that. The first one is by reviewing us and giving us likes and all of those star ratings wherever you get your podcast fix. Our home is Spotify and Anchor FM, but we are also on Apple, Google, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and many, many more. You can also support
Everywhere.
us as many places as we can.
Coast to coast.
You can support us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. All Patreon members get access to a video podcast with minimal editing, so you can see our beautiful faces and hear all of our amazing blunders. Patrons also get access to our quarterly painting contest. Plus, we have perks at higher levels, so go on over and check all of that stuff out. Joe's Sump Shack. Try the new all-you-can-eat nuclear hot pot. The Sump Crust stations and fungi don't stop. Paired with 2 cred liter of rock brewing arrogant squig ale and live music every Wednesday, starting right after 3rd shift.
Oh man, I work 4th shift.
We are the degenerate hivers your parents warned you about. The maxed out metal and leather-clad rages of rebellion, screaming louder than the Ministerum's friendly morale officer. 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, reminding all of you Chemrats, hive mice, and some ghoulies to keep those dials fixed right here. Same ratty-ass frequency for a dose of the same ratty-ass attitude. Lies have short legs, but 4-armed emperors have 4 of them.
That's a fact.
This is fucking nonsense. I love it, though.